Hi everybody, it's Maria from cardbomb.blogspot.com. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we will be doing a fun technique called Emboss Resist. You can do this technique in a variety of different ways, but today I will be doing it with sponging. I've decided to use the largest stamp from the stamp set called Hello Color in order to create my background. I've inked it up in Versamark ink and I've stamped it 2 times onto a piece of watercolor paper. Versamark ink is clear, but it's a little bit sticky and is made for use with embossing powder. I've covered my Versamark ink with clear embossing powder, and now I'm going to use my heat tool to set it. I'm being really careful to make sure that I heat emboss all the way to the edges. If I'm not careful with my embossing, you'll definitely see that I've made a mistake as soon as I start to add the ink. I'm starting to add ink with a sponge dauber and the color Tempting Turquoise. As I continue to add layers of color, you can see that the ink is revealing the embossed background on my paper, and that's basically what Emboss Resist is. When you heat emboss onto a piece of paper, the embossing provides a barrier between the ink and your paper, and that barrier resists the ink. Now the second color that I used was Bermuda Bay, and this third color that I'm using now is Island Indigo. I'm going back over the Bermuda Bay area because I want the color to be a bit more pigmented, and it seems like my paper was absorbing the color, so I wanted to add more. Back down to Tempting Turquoise to add just a little bit more, and here we are. I'm using a paper towel to wipe any residual ink off the top of the embossed areas, and it comes off very easily. So for this project we're actually going to use Emboss Resist with the sentiment as well, but this time we're going to do it on a dark piece of paper. I've used my Stampin' Buddy to eliminate static from the piece of paper, inked my stamp up in Versamark, and now I'm putting my embossing powder on. But that's where the mistake was. I didn't mean to grab my clear embossing powder, I meant to grab white, but they look the same in the case, so I made a mistake. It's no problem though. Look, I just grabbed my white craft ink and I sponged over the top of the sentiment to reveal once again the sentiment, because that embossed image will resist the ink. So you can do this technique on dark colored cardstock as well. You just need to make sure that you have a contrasting color of ink to make your sentiment show up. Now I'm using my paper snips to fussy cut my sentiment out, and this is a detailed sentiment, so it did take a little bit longer than something more simple would have. And I am going to layer it on top of that black ribbon, but it doesn't have enough contrast, so I decide to add a gray circle behind it, and I've sponged the edges of that circle just a little bit with the same color ink. I'm using my fast fuse to adhere my ribbon right across that strip where the background stamps weren't quite large enough to cover the whole background. It's an easy way to hide something if you need to hide something. Now I'm using some fast fuse to adhere this card face to the card base. Fast fuse is my favorite adhesive because it holds very strong, but it's still easy to apply. Now I'm putting that For You on top of the gray circle, but it still just wasn't quite right, so I decided to use my black Stampin' Right marker to add some spatter onto that background just to give it a little bit more visual interest. All you have to do is stick the tip of the pen in the cap and give it a couple of flicks and you'll get some sprays onto wherever you want them. I've cut some dimensionals to fit the back of this detailed sentiment, but when I checked the front to make sure none of them were going to show, whoops, that one's definitely going to show. So I used my snips just to give it a little cut and was able to flip it around so that it wouldn't show. I'm going to pop it right onto that gray piece. I'm just going to center it. There we go. Now I need to add some dimensionals to the back of this smoky slate circle, and I've used mini dimensionals because they fit so much more easily. And I'm just going to pop that on right there, and it needs a little bit something extra, so I'm going to go ahead and add some detail with my clear Wink of Stella just to give it a little bit of shimmer and shine. That's it for that. But you might have noticed that the tip of my Wink of Stella has picked up a little color, so I made sure to wipe it off on a piece of paper before I put it away. Now I'm using my snips to add some black rhinestones, and I'm just going to add a few right below the sentiment and a couple more just above. Well, that is going to do it for this Emboss Resist technique today. So if you have any questions, please leave me a comment below. If you'd like to head over to my blog or purchase any of the products that I've used today, please click on the links that I am leaving for you in the description below. Thanks for stopping by, and I will see you soon. Bye!